For a long time, I used to say that CRO is a team sport, which means I was not a big fan of remote CRO teams. I just didn't see it work. COVID has its way of making us change our mind. Now, mind you, we've always been mostly a remote company, but the CRO teams, and for me, a CRO team is a CRO, the designer, the developer. Most of the time they were in the same place and they at least met physically rather regularly, maybe once or twice a week. COVID changed that. It presented an opportunity to be able to hire the best talent that you can find anywhere in the world and allow them to travel and live anywhere in the world. But it presented new challenges. Okay, so how do you get the team to work together? A core component is hiring the right people. Hiring the right people is different from one company to the next. The right people for Invest and how Invest does projects is probably a lot different than the right people for a 3M or an eBay. That's fundamental, that you need to understand, okay, what skill sets do I need to bring? How do I make sure that my team is able to work together? You hire the right people for the right roles. So for us, again, the roles are the CRO, they are the analyst, the person who is going to drive the project. They identify conversion opportunities, they identify usability issues, they identify new revenue streams for a company that we're working with. They come up with the hypothesis. The designer takes that hypothesis, creates the design. The developer handles the implementation of the experiment. And then after that, there's a quality control person and then the launch. So sometimes people think to themselves, a single person is going to fulfill all these roles. I am yet to find that Uber CRO that is able to do all these roles. You might have a CRO who's a good designer. That is very possible. But a CRO who's a good designer and a good developer, a very difficult one. Used to be a developer. Most developers are just not good designers. We think we are, but if we're honest with ourselves, design and development are just two different creatures, two different sides of the brain. And then after you have the right team members, now it's about the processes. So for us, this optimization pod handles typically anywhere between 3-4 different companies that we're working with. They're meeting regularly. They meet 2-3 times a day. They're discussing the different problems. Although they are remote, they work synchronously most of the time. The asynchronous work in CRO doesn't work. You want to bounce ideas off of your teammates. And at the same time, you want to have enough time to walk away, sit and think. So sometimes they'll start the morning with a meeting. Everybody goes away for about 2-3 hours. Then there's another meeting to discuss. When they're discussing, they're trying to bring a whole bunch of issues and problems together as opposed to let's meet for 15 minutes. Let's meet for 5 minutes, because then that's death by 1,000 meetings. You want to avoid that. I'd rather have 1 or 2 meetings a day where I'm discussing different issues and having a discussion with everybody and just kind of moving on from there. That's the approach that we're following right now. Seems to be working for the most part. I can tell you for sure, by the way, it is not as good as having everybody in the same location. That's just the reality. But it's also a tax that we pay for the ability to hire people in different locations of the world. So you give up something, you gain something else. It's funny because one of our CROs, we hired her, she was in Slovakia and now she's in Spain. She's like all over Europe. Every time I talk to her, I'm like, hey, where are you nowadays? So she's in Spain and she seems to like Spain quite a bit. So she's settling there for a while. So, you want to give people that freedom to some extent.